Hello, welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Marie Cato. On Monday, Poland's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radosław Sikorski, together with German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul, visited the Krzyżowa International Youth Meeting Center and the Church of Peace in Świdnica, Poland. The meeting commemorated the 35th anniversary of the Treaty of Good Neighborship and Friendly Cooperation between the two countries. To discuss the significance and purpose of this treaty, I'm joined by former Polish ambassador to the United States and Germany, Janusz Reiter. Hello, and thank you very much for joining us. So, Your Excellency, Krzyżowa is a powerful symbol of reconciliation, especially here in Poland. How does visiting this specific site today influence Polish-German diplomatic relations this year and in general?
Well, not immediately, but we can be proud of the reconciliation. We were proud of the reconciliation, both in Poland and in Germany. I remember back in the 1990s, the people from Japan, from South Korea, coming to me, experts, politicians, and asking how we managed this reconciliation. This was something that Poland shared with other countries. And in the past, 20 years or so, somehow it became less popular, and sometimes it seemed that people were ashamed of that. And Sikorski and Wadephul rightly decided to remind people that this is something that both countries can be proud of for many reasons. Also, because without the reconciliation and without a working Polish-German relationship, there would have been no enlargement of NATO and of the European Union. So it was not just bilateral, it was it was a contribution to shaping new Europe after 1989.
Absolutely. But talking about the challenges that Europe faces today, what do you think are the greatest challenges for Polish-German relations?
Well, this relationship is dysfunctional, and that's a trouble, because this is exactly the time we need this relationship. We need this relationship to manage the crisis in Europe, to reshape Europe, to address the fundamental questions of European security and the future of Europe. But the obvious goal is, to use Poland's and Germany's influence to help Ukraine, and also to help Ukraine win the war, and also to help Ukraine recover after the war, and then to offer Ukraine a place in Europe, which is in Poland's and Germany's interest. I believe that we need this cooperation to reshape geopolitics in Central and Eastern Europe. For the first time, there is an opportunity, a historic opportunity, to reshape the relationship between these two countries, Poland and Germany, and Ukraine. If we succeed doing so, this will have an enormous impact of Germany's and Poland's relations with Russia. Russia will also, after the war, remain the major threat and the major challenge for Europe. This will be the test of the Polish-German relationship, and we only can, I think, pass this exam if we have Ukraine on our side, and this is something that is a mission for, not for a season, it is a mission for many years.
Absolutely. Do you think that Germany and Poland perceive the war in Ukraine in the same way?
Yes, I think so. I think so. I'm not concerned about about our perceptions. What I worry a bit about is how we will behave after the end of the war. This is not going to be quite easy. The relationship with Ukraine is not easy to manage for Poland. It's easier for Germany, because in the middle between Germany and Ukraine there is Poland. There is nothing between Ukraine and Poland. So this is a challenge. It's a historic challenge, but it is a great opportunity. With Ukraine as a new player in Eastern Europe, a country that has an enormous economic and military potential, Europe can become a serious player in global politics. We need this influx of the competence, of the military experience of the country, and also of the strength of the so-called military-industrial complex in Ukraine.
What are the greatest things that you think Ukraine can bring into Central and Eastern Europe?
It's the self-confidence in dealing with power, also with military power, and I think a very realistic sense of what security is about. This is what many people, many nations in Western Europe forgot a long time ago. This is something that people in Poland maybe did not forget that much, but this is something that the Ukrainians are the best experts on in Europe.
But there are a lot of challenges that Ukraine has to face before it can really, shall we say, submerge itself into European structures. I mean, corruption is the first thing that really comes to mind.
Certainly, yes. I have no illusions, but we must not lose. We must not miss the strategic goal. I cannot expect the European Commission to think strategically. Well, if they can, would be wonderful. But that's not what the European Union is about. The European Union is a meritocratic organization. They have to make sure that candidates meet all the criteria. But the member states, they have their interests, and they should think strategically. And two member states have a particular interest in the success of this operation. This is Poland, for historical, for geographical, for security reasons, and this is also Germany, the major member of the European Union, a country that's, whose future would be much more difficult without the European Union, a country that seems to understand, at least the major forces seem to understand that the European Union cannot be taken for granted in the future. So Ukraine will, of course, add a lot of trouble, but it will also add strategic seriousness and the experience of the war that has taught the Ukrainians what security in Europe is all about.
A new dimension. Now, I just wanted to go back to Poland and Germany. There's been a lot of discussion about Polish and German relations, especially in the context of German reparations. And obviously, you have a lot of experience, having been the ambassador to Germany. Can you tell us a little bit of how you understand the portrayal of these recent discussions? What is the situation really like? Where does the issue of the reparations really stand? Is the reporting that we've seen in the media accurate? What is the situation really like?
Well, no. The entire reparation issue is
it really closed?
It is the best method to block this relationship and to prevent both countries from having political dialogue and from cooperating, because it transfers the entire question to the moral issue, and it is a question of whether the Germans meet our moral expectations, or if they fail, well, then Germany cannot be a partner. We may have a lot of diverging interests and opinions between Poland and Germany. This is normal in the world, normal in Europe. But we have also some important shared common interests, especially in Eastern Europe. What I said about Ukraine, I think that's the number one issue for both countries. And for historical and geographical reasons, these two countries should work on that. We also have the historic opportunity, for the first time since the 18th century, to draw Germany's attention in Eastern Europe from Russia to Ukraine, and to use the potential of Germany for creating a new security, a new security space in Eastern Europe with Poland. This time, not as a playground for the major powers, but as a player. So, given that, it makes no sense to come up with unrealistic expectations. I believe there can be some realistic expectations. I think it can be a kind of moral duty for Germany to contribute to Poland's security. I believe that this would be a right expression of Germany's responsibility, historic responsibility for Poland. The commitment to Poland's security. The commitment that could be also expressed in very specific, concrete forms, in contributing financially by delivering military help to Poland. So there is a lot of things that we could discuss, but as long as we are blocked in this relationship, there is no real discussion, and that's a shame, because this is exactly what's, as much as in 1989, when Europe needed a good Polish-German relationship, Europe needs today not less, maybe even more.
Former Polish ambassador to the United States and Germany, Janusz Reiter, thank you so much for a very interesting conversation.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for World Talks. Thank you so much for joining us, and make sure you stay tuned with TVP World. Goodbye.